Hello, everybody. Welcome to Tower Casuals, the Destiny podcast here on Boss Rush Games. I'm one of your hosts, Corey Derrick, and alongside me, as always, is the mayor of the Deepstone Crypt, Josh Finney.
Hi!
Hi, Josh.
I'm a mayor. I like this. It was not democratically elected either. I seized it by power.
No, I just nominated you, and I'm the only one that votes because I'm the host.
I live there. So...
Josh, we've pulled from the LFG. We have our friend, Colonel Panic himself, Joe Wilson.
Hiya.
Hi, Joe.
Hiya.
We missed you.
And we have the still working spirit of Nerd Generalist with us. He's here in our hearts.
Yep.
Communing with him.
And his tweets. So
instead of communing with the darkness or with the light, we're going to commune with you tonight.
Oh gosh.
But that sounds oddly religious, so I'm not okay with it.
What, you're just the god of Deepstone Crypt now, Josh? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Yes, we're gonna take of communion. Please eat, drink this Red Bull and this Chex Mix. Do this in remembrance of the wipes.
I want Chex Mix.
The wipes.
I'm pretty sure that was sacrilegious. So, yeah. Let's move on.
Did I ever tell you the time that I went to church with an ex-girlfriend? And I'm not Catholic, but she was. And her sister's boyfriend or fiance or whatever he was at the time, I don't remember, it was so long ago, wasn't Catholic either. And they went to go take communion, and we sat in the back with Gatorade and Triscuit crackers. Just, ate like a handful when they only got one. That's super anti-religious.
I asked, my grandma used to serve communion at the Methodist church we attended when I was growing up.
Whoa, Josh shaved and he took his glasses off. I don't recognize this man.
Dude, my eyes are like burning right now. They're really hurting.
Well, maybe you shouldn't stay up till 6 o'clock in the morning playing Cyberpunk and watch Disney's investor call all day.
Listen, it was 4 a.m., thank you very much. And I only woke up at 8 to play more Cyberpunk. I was going to say, they used to serve it with King's Hawaiian bread and Welch's grape juice, and I never understood that, like, when the bread was blessed, like, you're not supposed to eat it after that, except in communion. My grandma would always bring home, like, because it was the loaves. It wasn't the little rolls. It was, like, the big-ass bread loaves. And she would bring it home and throw it out to the birds. And she'd be like, Josh, go throw this out to the birds. And I'd be like, why can't we just eat it? Nobody's going to know. And she's like, Josh, God will know. So I'd take it out back to go throw it out, and I'd just stand there on the back patio, and I'd pick off 2 pieces at once, one for the birds, one for me, one for the birds, one for me. I do the same thing with the grape juice, because she'd be like, I'll just pour that down the sink. And it's like, it's an unopened bottle. Like, he blessed what was in the little disposable cups. He didn't bless the 64-ounce bottle. I'm keeping this bad boy. So I would hide Welch's grape juice under my bed.
Wow.
I feel like God would rather it not go to waste.
That's my argument. The older that I get, I'm like, I'm pretty sure God would want me to eat this. This is a blessing unto my body.
Yeah.
So,
and we're going to go with it. Grape juice.
But know who's not a god, even though he keeps trying to be one, Corey?
Who's that, Josh?
Tanix the Abomination.
Oh my gosh,
I thought you were going to say Clovis.
Oh, well, I mean, Clovis fits too, but yeah.
Yeah, Tanix. Tanix is back. I finally got to do the raid with you guys. I'm very, very excited. Also kind of confused in that third encounter of what to really do, but that's okay. We did it, and it was fine. So,
what was the third? Which one's the third encounter?
Maybe it's the fourth encounter. It's the one right before the boss where we had to shoot those little panels and get
it's the first one with the suppression buff.
Yeah.
You'll do it 2 more times and you'll understand it. You'll be like, oh, okay.
We didn't understand it either. We just kind of guessed the first time we did.
That's what I was kind of doing.
It's worked out good so far.
Look, every time the little panel next to the little doorway was blinking, I would just shoot it. I didn't really know. I was like, well, it doesn't say I have any buff or anything, but I'm just gonna shoot it anyway.
That encounter is the easiest one to just kind of glide your way through. I don't think anybody fully grasps what's going on and be like, okay, I guess we're done.
Yeah. I was just, and then we all went into the middle, and you guys were just run, and I was like, oh, okay. I'm just gonna run. I can do that. I'm good at that. I'm good at running. So, so what do we want to do first? I know we were going to talk about the raid a lot tonight. Josh, is there anything with the TWAB?
Let's tackle. First off, I want to get some impressions from both of y'all since we all have Series X's. How are y'all feeling about this new next gen update?
Oh, you mean like the 60 frames a second and field of view sliders, and I'm never going back to anything other than this ever again?
Yes, that exactly.
Okay, that's my impression.
That pretty much sums it up for me too. It genuinely game changed.
Also, 120 frames Crucible is like,
yeah,
it feels like a different game.
Mm-hmm. I have not been able to experience 120 frames personally, but man, just Crucible in general feels like a completely different game now.
Everything is so much more viable. It feels like it's easier for me to like, especially with auto rifles and SMGs. Like,
dude, they're so stable now. Oh my god!
I agree. It feels like I'm able to like lock on to people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. God, dude, gnawing hunger is just like a laser right now.
So I've been on the gnawing hunger train ever since my bygones went away.
Yep.
And I have to say that I'm so glad I stuck with it, because now it is like a laser.
It's a monster. Like if you use anything else in Crucible, or like even in like, I think I used it some of the raid. Like you should just use it all the time.
Unless you're sliding with Fail Winter's Lie, or what's the other one? I've been seeing a lot of Crimson recently.
Oh god, yeah, Crimson's everywhere.
Well, so there is a hand cannon step on the new Iron Banner quest where you have to get 15 final blows from a hand cannon, and let me tell you, if you don't use hand cannons regularly, Crucible or Crimson and Thorn are going to be your two best friends.
Crimson, anytime I need to do something with a hand cannon, Crimson's the one I pull out.
I did it with Thorn in a match. I got really I got most of my kills in one match. I only got 3 in the first one, and I was like, oh god, this is going to take me so many matches to do. And then Thorn, baby, in the next half of the first match, I finished it. So
nice. Yeah,
but,
I'm really enjoying. I just like the way it happened though. Like I texted my wife. Like I saw people tweeting about it while I was at work. I was working. I was just checking some tweets. Updates live, and I was like, oh man. And so I like texted my wife like, hey, can you turn my Xbox on? Actually, I was just like, hey, how you doing, honey? And she was like, fine. And I was like, can you do me a favor? Can you turn my Xbox on? Can you just like turn it on so the Destiny update happens? She's like, yeah. I was like, thanks. And that was it. That was the end of the conversation. But I could tell. I could hear the tone. Like, why? So, but man, yeah, so that's 60 frames a second. The first thing I did was go do the gunsmith bounties in the Cosmodrome. And I was just like, man, this is game changing. Like, it changed the entire game.
Brand new game.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so good.
What's everyone's field of view at?
I turned it all the way up just to see what it looked like. And it's like, man, my guy is like this big on my screen when I'm using a sword or something. He's like,
I'm at 95.
I'm at 100.
I think, what's the max, like 115 or 120 or something? The max on Halo is 120, but I don't know what it is in Destiny. I think it's like I think it's a little less than that. I think it's 105. I'm thinking about scaling it back a little bit though. I just wanted to see what it looked like.
The 105 was too much for me when I went into Crucible. But it was fine and everything else, but Crucible, it was too much for me.
Sometimes I feel like if you zoom too,
it's probably because I'm not used to it too. So I don't know. I may play around with the 105 a little bit more, run some Legend Lost sectors with it, maybe play a little bit of like Mayhem or something to get used to it.
Yeah,
give yourself about an hour and a half with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, the kicker that would really made it just difficult for me to comprehend was when I accidentally pulled out a sword in Crucible, and it flew back. That was the first time I had ever been in third person with it.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my god, nope, I can't do this. Nope, this is sensory overload. I gotta work up to this.
The one thing about zooming all the way out like that, though, is like it does kind of create this almost fisheye effect around the edges a little bit, and like that kind of bothers me. So that's why I think I'm going to scale it back in. But it's yeah, man, I'm really enjoying the update. I know we have a lot to get to, but that was kind of like, it was like life changing. And then I have my Xbox One X hooked up in my office for my nephews, and I like loaded Destiny up on it today, actually, when I got home, and like tried to like run around. I was like, I can't do this. This
It's
is
playing D1 again.
Yeah.
You go in, you're like, you remember, but you don't remember.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go in, you're like, ugh.
Yeah. There's like,
I don't think I want to do this.
Oh, I mean, it was like that before the update where like, oh, I can't even grab the ledge to boost myself up when I miss. Oh, gross.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. All right, Josh. TWAB time.
Yeah. So it's funny because we're not like actually going to dive into the TWAB because there's really nothing there besides dawning rewards, which we'll touch on next week. What we're going to focus on is an update that was put out Tuesday, right as the next gen update was going live, about how they structure rewards in the game and this going forward, because this was really one of the only major knocks that Corey and myself gave this a couple weeks ago with Beyond Light, was the limited loot pool, which they've already taken some steps to alleviate that. Like, okay, anything from previous seasons is going to drop now, which I don't know why that wasn't a default setting.
Yeah.
But this was also, the beginning of it is also Bungie acknowledging that we did not put enough new weapons into the release of a major expansion, let alone this season. So a lot of this is steps that they're going to take going forward and major changes they're outlining. So here we go. I want to start up at the top of this. I got to find it. They addressed the infusion caps, and they said that the two main things they were seeing in feedback were initial reward pool was too small, and it's frustrating to be playing the game and see another player use a weapon that you cannot obtain in the game. So to mitigate that, the too long don't read of it essentially is each season in year 4, D2 will grow the power ecosystem for weapons. With very few exceptions, all weapons you can take the power cap should still be earnable in game. I would assume that things like Adored, you need to earn it in season. It'll be like a Fellwinter style thing. If you don't, then good luck. And future annual releases will contain more new weapons to collect than either Beyond Light or Shadowkeep. Because Shadowkeep was pretty light on it too, actually, now that I think about it. For the initial release. So, the first big thing they talk about is the power ecosystem. Next season, Season 13. So we're on Season 12 now. Season 13, which, by the way, the name was data mined, and it's supposedly Season of the Chosen, which makes me really excited. Like, I just love hearing the names and thinking about where the story will go. They're going to add 6 new legendary weapons to the ritual activities, 2 each for Strikes, Gambit, and Crucible. I assume that's on top of the 3 weapons that are already exclusive over there. There's 1 for each activity right now. So, I mean, 3 things to collect in each. That's not too bad. And then Nightfall Strikes are going to get 3 Destiny 1 weapons. The Palindrome, the Swarm, and Shadow Price are all going to come back. And if you do Grandmasters, you can earn adept versions of these.
That's awesome.
That's fantastic. This is, again, addresses another core complaint, which is that there's no incentive to go do Nightfalls other than bragging rights and materials, and there's definitely no reason to do Grandmasters right now. This fixes both of those things. If that's going to be a pinnacle PvE experience like a raid is, the raid weapons have exclusive perks, which we'll get to, but raids and Grandmasters and, Nightfalls need to have special loot. They just do. Because I have no incentive to go do Nightfalls as it is. I do just barely enough to bang out anything I may need to do, like Weekly Bright Dust, and even that, like, I'll just go play 3 regular strikes, not even playlist. I'll go bang out like a Shadows 3 times or something. Like, cool, 15 minutes and I'm done with my weeklies. And this will force you to, if you want this stuff, you're going to have to go play Nightfalls. Like, people like me who don't like touching that and would much rather play Crucible with their friends, cool, you got me into strikes, congratulations. Because I'm coming back for Shadow Price.
But also, like,
absolutely coming back for that.
We spent, what was it? Almost however many hours when we tried to do the day one raid. What, 8, 12, whatever.
12.
Oh, it was 12. It was 12. We quit around 1. But that's all of us getting together and trying to do that. We should do the same for Grandmasters. Like, if there's a good incentive and be like, oh, we 3 of us and we have to figure out a way to work together and beat this thing and just do it. Like, it makes sense. Give me an incentive. It's the only reason why I didn't do it, because there's no reason for me to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's been my argument forever. Like, one of our friends, A1 Johnny, loves doing Nightfalls. I hate doing them. Anytime anybody says, let's go do Nightfalls, I'm just like, nope, I'm leaving the fire team.
That sounds like Mitch.
Desire to go torture myself.
Every time I get on like a Friday night and Mitch and I play together, he's like, you want to do a Nightfall? I'm like, ooh. That, No.
Yeah, no. But this is a complaint, just like with Trials. Like we said, there need to be rewards for Trials, and voila, we got the adept weapons. Which, if Trials ever goes live this season, they'll be back. But
well, right now it's looking like next weekend, supposedly.
They're saying December 18th. I honestly wonder if I hope that they put it out next week, because if not, they're gonna have to hold it till after Christmas. Don't put it out Christmas weekend, in case something breaks. Like, ugh, I can't imagine how bad that would be. But moving on, so yeah, how weapons are going to be kept current. You can earn anything that has not yet hit the cap. Legendary Engrams will no longer reward soon-to-expire weapons. If you want to chase a specific piece of soon-to-be-capped loot, you'll find it with the Gunsmith. Which that's pretty cool to me. So, like, for example, if you really wanted a breach light this season, if this had been in place, you could go get a breach light from the Gunsmith. So the way I interpret this is, like, if it's season 12 and something's expiring in 13, you would have to go buy it from there. But anything from anything from like 10 and 11 would still drop in Engrams and in world drops. Saying as far as exceptions, they are not going to add methods for players to acquire things like Raytech Werewolf outside of the holiday celebrations. But in Season 13, they will be adding quest weapons, including Fellwinter's Lie, Whisper of the Worm, and Outbreak Perfected to the Exotic Kiosk, for people who have missed those. I think that's a pretty fair approach, honestly.
Yeah.
I think it's fine.
Yeah, I until now, I did not know that Outbreak and Whisper were not a part of that pool. I do hope this means the catalysts are coming with them, though, because I would like to get both of those catalysts.
Yeah, I would at least like to get the Outbreak catalyst.
For sure. I mean, Whisper's definitely not as viable in anything anymore, but I do think with Sepix Prime coming back, it could be used in Nightfalls. Which, speaking of... quality and quantity. So I thought that this was the section that talked about strikes and more content, but that's in the next paragraph. The last 12 months have continued to evolve the way Guardians play the game. We think that the rewards team nailed it again this time around with recombination, thrash, chain reaction, and reconstruction, which I absolutely agree with. I think they've been fantastic. And this is where they really elaborate on the commitment to providing more weapons in the base releases than through seasons, which I like too. I mean, because you got to have stuff in the seasonal pool, but you got to have a pretty good chunk there, because there's a ton of players who will never buy a season, and so they're automatically locked out from those weapons. You got to have viable stuff for them, which I would like to see them go back and make the stuff from Forsaken and Shadowkeep from the base campaigns. If it is still something you're selling for money, it should be able to be infused up to the current cap. That's just my personal take on it. Like, not that any of those are like game-changing weapons or anything, but still, like, it's all part of having that loot pool. Like, something that's only been out for a year and it was a paid $40 release should not be capped, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe that's like just the entitlement in me talking, but It's like I never really had a need to go use like any of the moon weapons outside of the sniper, and it's now like, oh, some of these would actually really help us right now because we have like one legendary LMG. Cool. Can I use the one from the moon, please? I paid for it.
See, my biggest issue with any of this stuff in Destiny is that like I have like a handful. When I say a handful, like 3 or 4 weapons that I really like to use, and like those are the only ones that I use. Like when the moon weapons came out, I was like, yes, I think it's neat to look at them. I love to see how all the weapons sound and feel when you shoot them. But then as soon as it comes when it comes down to a raid, and you're like, I got my 4 guns, I'm ready to go. Like I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I almost wish there was a way to, and maybe it's just a me thing, but I wish there was a way to get me out of that mindset. Like a weapon that's good enough to be like, you'll use this and you'll like it. I don't know. Like,
I think that's what they tried to do this year with the sunsetting. They basically were like, leave that shit behind. You're using new stuff. Deal with it.
But then they don't do that, because then you could just get another drop that's a higher light level of the same gun.
I mean, not really. I mean, like, dude, you and I loved Bygones, and I was very attached to my blast furnace as well. I had to leave those behind. I could still take them into the Crucible if I want to, but why bother? I might as well use guns I'm using all the time now. With a lot of my go-to legendaries either being vaulted or about to be vaulted, like in the case of Breachlight and Last Hope, I've found myself experimenting a lot more this season with weapons and weapon rolls. Like, I've had to put my trusty Recluse in the vault for good. I can't just be like, oh, it's Void Week and strikes. I'm gonna go run Recluse and just mow everything down.
I never got into Recluse. I earned it. I used it for a little bit, and I just never.
Man, I didn't believe the hype, and then I did Master Nightfalls with it. I believed the hype after that, even though it was after Nerf number 3. It was still such a good weapon on console. I can only imagine what it must be like with an actual frame rate now. I'm gonna have to bust it out for some Crucible.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be part of the problem.
I don't know. I'm kind of like Joe though. Like I find a certain set of weapons that I like to use, and I will use them until I can't use them anymore. You know, like
right. I think that's the mindset of a lot of players.
Yeah, and like I've been like this season, I've done way more experimenting than I ever have, just because like. Of the sunsetting, and like I haven't really been as deep into Destiny in a while. Like I'll play weekly, like probably once or twice a week, but this is the first time I'm like playing with builds, trying to find weapon combinations, taking advice from other players. Like, okay, these are the weapons you might need for the raid. Like this is the things you need to level up. These are the weapons that work well in Crucible or in a Nightfall or whatever. Right. And I'm like playing around with a whole bunch of different ones, but like. To be honest, when I'm going to do like patrols or even nightfalls and strikes at this point now, I'm still using the same 5 weapons. I'm using Outbreak Perfected. I'm using Gnawing Hunter, the 7 Seraph shotgun, and I'm using either Lament or Fallen Guillotine or Xenophage. Like I'm still using the same damn weapons.
Right, but you're also using stuff that isn't anywhere close to sunsetting. Whereas a lot of the go-to weapons that, like, for example, I was using, I had to change my entire loadout outside of my exotics.
Yeah, but even up until this season, I was still using Uriel's Gift. Like, I was still using like those weapons, and like
that's a you problem, my friend.
And like Hawthorne's Field Forge shotgun, even though that weapon has sucked forever, and like the Prophet or the Escalation Protocol shotgun, like the Icola shotgun, even though like. Yes, I realize it's still relevant if you do the Prophecy Dungeon, but like, I'm still using all of these like this same set of like 7 weapons I've been using since I don't know what the Warmind expansion, I guess. Like,
I think this has been a good experience for you this season.
It has been, but it's like I'm still like trying to find. Okay, this auto rifle kind of feels like Uriel's Gift. This auto rifle just kind of feels like. Hard light a little bit or whatever. Like I'm still using the same, like, I guess archetypes, I guess you would say.
Well, if anything, this made me learn about archetypes a lot more with the sunsetting, because even over the summer, I started looking at like, okay, so some of the things I like Blast Furnace. Let me start seeing what's similar in firing rate to this. Let me see what's similar to some of my scouts that I like. Like, I mean, Night Watch came forward, thank God. But I've been running a scout most of the season. My beloved patron of lost causes. And let me tell you something, when that thing gets sunset next season, I'm not going to be a happy camper. I have a god roll on it. I don't want to let it go, but that's why I really need Trustee to hurry up and drop.
Oh, I have 4 of them.
God, I hate you.
Yeah.
God, I hate you so much.
I got 3 during the raid, and then like,
dude, I've got
you know what?
so many heritages. I could like make my body out of heritage and still have room.
Yeah, it's all I can say is that I would like to run the raid again and get that full set of armor. Because all I need is the chest piece and the arms, and I'm good to go. I got a lot of gear out of that raid, by the way.
We're gonna move to the raid in just a second. We got one more paragraph to get through.
Yeah.
Joe, what were you saying?
Nope. I'll wait.
I think he's excited for Master Chief and something.
In three and a half minutes. In 3.5 minutes, we're getting to the raid. The preview for 2021 is how they end it. Transmog officially coming in season 14, which is probably the season that's going to start in May, if the timeline holds up. And they do 3-month seasons. It'll probably be starting sometime around the beginning, maybe middle of May. So that's awesome. They gave some in work in progress screen caps. I'd encourage everybody to go look at those on Bungie.net. I can't really describe them, but they look really, really good. DDoS protection, finally, for Destiny 2 players on all consoles is coming next season in Season 13. The Vault of Glass returns. 2 Strikes, Fallen Saber, and Devil's Lair are coming in Season 13 along with the rest of the Cosmodrome. Legendary and Master Lost Sector rotations will be expanded to include the Moon in Season 13. There will be 3 new pieces of exotic armor for us to chase. And, of course, the Big Daddy announcement that was just slipped in here. One little sentence. 5 delicious words. Crossplay is coming in 2021.
That's probably a big deal.
The crossplay is the biggest deal for me, just because think about us when we have a Discord where we all try to group up, but it's segmented into like, here your PC players are over here, console players over here, like you have Xbox players, you have PlayStation 4 players, and at least PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and Xbox and Series XS respectively, like they can play together. But like, how great will it be because we're all friends in that Discord, like just like not then have to like be like, oh, I don't want to play if I'm not playing on PC, and be like, oh, you can still play on PC, and now we can all play and be friends officially.
We can all be friends, best friends.
It'll just be so much easier to get groups together, and I don't know,
and not have to like, I don't know, like because a lot of my friends are playing on PlayStation 4 and 5. Like my old clan is on PlayStation, and I'm like that like. I was so happy when the cross save feature came out because I had friends that played on both consoles, and like when that happened, I'm like, thank God I can just like use the same characters instead of trying to level up like 4, 5, 6 different characters to play with different groups just depending on the situation. That was a nightmare. And like now that I can actually just like play. Oh my gosh, there's another Skype chat going on somewhere in my Skype thread, and all I hear are these bleeps and bloops, and it's angering me.
I don't mean to alarm you, but I now know why Joe was trying to get my attention.
Yeah,
the Fortnite master trailer just.
Don't worry, we're gonna talk about it on Arsenal X this week.
Oh my God, it's so good.
He looks cool.
Oh, we're playing Fortnite, boys.
I am.
We're playing Fortnite.
I guess Blood Gulch is in it.
In the Fortnite map.
That's why I saw that pop up somewhere.
Oh my Christ! Okay, pause. I'm reading I'm looking at the official announcement right now. Across the galaxy in the armor of the Chief, you battle against the Covenant, Flood, and Prometheans. But with the tie between realities, 0 Point having been exposed, you can now put the armor on in Fortnite.
Welcome to Battle Bus Casuals, the Fortnite
when you
podcast.
play a match of Fortnite on Xbox Series X or S after purchasing the outfit, you'll unlock the matte black style for it. Ooh. Ooh.
Matt.
Battle Legend Bling Bag, which is that's the legendary symbol. A Pelican Glider, miniature Pelican Carrier, and oh my god, the pickaxe is the gravity hammer.
Yeah,
fuck.
Dude, it's like $30 on sale.
I don't care. I'm buying it, Corey. We had this argument about Kratos and how
I didn't say
boys and girls.
I'm just saying.
I knew I was going to spend the money when Chief came.
It's funny. I legitimately, when that announcement came on, I turned on my Xbox and I was like, I'll just buy it right now. And then I was like, oh, I can't. The sound will be too much. I can't have both going through my headphones, so I backed out. But I'm excited. Anyway, Destiny.
Starting December 11th at 10 a.m. Eastern, you can slip into the world of Chief in creative mode and experience a recreation of a classic map. And it is a screen cap of Blood Gulch, baby. Blood Gulch is back. You were right, Joe.
Excited.
Oh my god.
It's pretty awesome.
So,
also, while we're on other games, speaking of massive crossovers, Sephiroth is also coming to Smash, in case anybody cares. That was not my first guess, but I did guess that like a year ago, and then they put Min Min in, and I was like, oh, well, there we go. I thought they were going to put Sephiroth in with the when they announced the Final Fantasy VII Remake. But anyways, continue. Master Chief in Fortnite. Pew pew.
Christ. Chief in Fortnite. Yep, we Fortnite now, boys. Yeah, I'm gonna.
I mean, the Mandalorian is you only have to buy the Battle Pass to unlock the Mandalorian too. So
might as well just spend $50.
I really cannot. Oh God, Blood Gulch looks so good too.
Dude, there's probably been like 25 different times I almost downloaded Fortnite and just bought the skin, like the Captain America pack, the Batman pack. Mm-hmm. Now, like the Mandalorian and Master Chief are like really cool looking. I'm like, man, I wish I was good at Fortnite because then I would play it and use these characters.
Oh my god, I can't believe this. Is
Fortnite just becoming Ready Player One at this point?
Yes, because they also added Daryl Dixon and Michonne tonight from The Walking Dead.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a pretty big deal to most people, I guess. Right? Like people still watch The Walking Dead, right? That's a thing still?
It is ending this season.
No, it's not. That's a lie.
Yes, it is. No, I'm dead serious. It's got 12 episodes left.
I don't know.
And then they're doing like 4 spinoffs.
The thing I'm the most excited for, though, is the Perfect Dark. So, okay, I know this is a Destiny podcast, and I know we're going to talk about it. I know we're going to talk about it on Arsenal X this week, and I do want to talk about the raid. But Perfect Dark has 2 little notches next to Dark. Does that mean this is Perfect Dark 2, or is it just Perfect Dark?
So, what I've heard is that it's a reboot.
I mean, I'm fine either way. I just like...
If it's not a reboot, it's definitely a reimagining. Like, I've heard both of those, and I'm curious to see what happens. Like, I don't know. I want this to be like a first-person style game done like how Remedy does third-person games.
Mm-hmm.
I want Remedy gameplay and storytelling in a first-person perspective with this.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't care either way. I just like I think it looks cool. I'm ready for Perfect Dark. First person, that surprised me. I thought it was going to be a third person stealth action game, but
oh my god, dude! I just
I saw the laptop gun though in the trailer, and I was like, okay, this is Perfect Dark. So, anyways, back to Destiny. You can tell we've all been like, I don't know. It's been a day. Josh has been up for like 75 hours straight watching things. Like it's like Harry Potter. He's got that little twisty necklace from the 3rd movie that makes you travel through time.
I need it.
You're pulling a Hermione right now, Josh.
I do need a time turner really badly.
So, all right,
but We're gonna move on to the main discussion though tonight, guys.
The main dish.
The main dish, the only dish. Like the stuff about next year was just like that was a palate cleanser. And if you want to know all about the Dawning, we'll talk about it next week. We're not talking about it this week. But guys, the Deepstone Crypt. Initial impressions from you guys.
Joe, I'll let you go first.
Like, just sum it up in a couple sentences for me, because we're going to dive into a couple categories.
In a couple sentences.
There's one.
Accessible. Oh, I'm thinking words, not sentences. I think it's a extremely accessible raid that has high replayability. And it's fun. I think it's one of the... It's definitely the best raid in recent times. Nostalgia aside, it's one of the better raids. Especially for an entry raid. Sorry, I keep jumping in right as you do.
No, you're good. You're good. That's what we want. Corey?
It's extremely... I would say that's probably the easiest time I've had jumping into the raid for the first time. As someone who, like... Especially in D1, who used to raid like literally every week, like 3 times a week with each character and like trying to level everything up and whatever. This was definitely the easiest time I've had jumping into a raid for the first time. When it was over, I was kind of like, oh man, I kind of am like ready to keep going. Like it just kind of like, it felt really small. And I don't know if that's just because we were just like blown through everything, but like it felt really small. I don't know, man. I was like not, it was fun. Like it was a fun experience. I was not thrilled with the raid. I think there are like the raids that I've done. It's better than Leviathan for sure. I think it's way better than Leviathan. I really don't know how to feel about it because I feel like it just like went by so fast that I'm just like still kind of like thinking about it. That first encounter with the I don't really know how I feel about it yet, to be honest with you.
Okay. I'll go ahead and I'm just gonna echo Joe's comments because I do think that this is the most beginner friendly raid
that
they maybe have ever done.
I definitely agree with that. Like I agree that it is super beginner friendly. If you have if you have friends that are jumping in for the first time or have never raided before or like really getting to Destiny since like maybe launch or D1 or whatever and they're coming back, like this is definitely the raid to do first. It is super accessible. It's really easy to understand. The mechanics are complex enough to make you feel like you are solving a puzzle and simple enough to get you through it. I can see where that second encounter would be insanely difficult without Lament. But that was like the only part of the raid where I was like, man, this is challenging. Like everybody's got to be on point on this part.
Yeah, so like I just want to keep talking about the accessibility for a quick second.
Yeah.
Look at the other 2 raids that are currently in the game. Last Wish and Garden of Salvation. Even for experienced raiders, I don't know anyone who likes to run those regularly. I mean, the tether mechanic in Garden of Salvation has been described by some of the best raiders in the world, some of the people who have run them the most times, always compete for worlds first, as literally the worst mechanic ever done in a Bungie game. And I'm inclined to agree with them. It is genuinely a horrific thing in an otherwise great raid. But if your main mechanic sucks, your raid is going to suck as a result. It's going to be a lot less fun. Like, I put Garden at 4th on our rankings a couple of months ago.
If you were to start actually organized raids by a series of criteria, Garden would be extremely high in almost everything.
Yep.
But the fact that the mechanics are so bad in it, bad maybe not the right word, but so frustrating,
Unforgiving.
That it turns me off so much from that raid. But if you look at the visual style or like the experience of the raid, that aside, it's so good. But that just deteriorates it so quickly that I want to do a run of that raid, but every time I think about it, just like, oh no, not today. And I just will never probably play it again.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that. Like, I was saying the other night to you and Nerd, like, as much as I love the armor in it, I'll never go back to it. Contrast that with the Deepstone Crypt. So I guess let's shift into rewards here before we talk about the encounters. This is how every single raid and dungeon needs to do rewards from now on. Every single one of them. Not just in how the armor and weapons drop, how you're guaranteed the mods out of your first 4 secret chest opens, so you have them right off the bat. They clearly learned from the fiasco that was Garden, when you had a random chance for them to drop there or in the previous raids. They're not essential to complete this raid, whereas Garden, it feels like they're essential to completing it in, you know, a couple of phases. But I think the biggest success comes from 2 new things that were introduced that we've never seen in Destiny before, at least in a raid. The Spoils of Conquest system that allows you at the final chest to buy rolls of any guns or armor you have unlocked in the raid. But also, you can buy chests, encounter chests, and you can only buy them until you've earned everything from that encounter to help give you a chance. And it's a bullshit chance. I want to be really clear on that. It's an absolute bullshit chance.
Oh, you're just salty you haven't gotten the scout rifle yet.
Corey, I've bought 4 of those crates. I've spent over 200 spoils in there, and I have not gotten a single new thing. I'm very upset. I'm very salty. It's not even about the scout rifle anymore. I've been trying to get the chest piece and the scout. But that is how loot needs to be done going forward. It encourages, and for the first time ever outside of the little season of the raid we had over the summer, it incentivizes running the raid multiple times on the same character. I would rather stock up on spoils now at this point when I'm done doing triumphs. I'd rather just run around as my hunter, like, hey, you want to run it 3 times a week? Sure, that's 3 hours out of that's three hours max out of my week. We've got it down to an hour or less now on these runs. I have no problem doing that.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing too, is like we beat it. Like I'd already, like, I had in my head, I was like, okay, this might take us like 3 or 4 hours maybe. Like, I'm putting it aside. I've got my energy drink ready. I got my snacks ready. I've got, you know, bathroom breaks ready. Got it planned out, and we were done in way under 2 hours. What, like an hour 45, hour 50-ish?
Yeah, and we got the Sparrow, the Ghost. Like it wasn't like we're pushing forward. Like, we were not only teaching you guys, but we got all the extra stuff. Like, it was like we took our time.
Yeah. So, yeah, it kind of reminded me a little bit of like Wrath in the Machine a little bit in terms of like length and just like certain encounters and like I don't know, man. I really enjoyed it. I don't know if I would put it at like the top of my favorite raids right now. Maybe it's because I haven't run it enough.
We're gonna circle back to that question, though. We're gonna circle back to where we rank this at the end of this.
Okay.
Because I do want to address that. I think there's a few factors, and we're hitting on each of those factors as we go along. So we hit on the accessibility and on the loot. Let's talk about the actual encounters, though. So you start off with this crazy pike race that is very bugged right now, and I hope they never fix that bug, because it feels like one of those things they're just going to leave in, like the ribbon wall cheese that they're not going to take out, because I think there would actually be a complete revolt from the community if they did that. It doesn't harm anything, and if you're smart enough to figure it out, cool, you deserve to be able to do that. Nerd did it on accident on our day 1 raid the very first time.
I was like 10 seconds in.
Yeah, we discovered it. We thought it was just a glitch, and we're like, oh, God, this game is so glitched. This is so fucked up. We were going bubble to bubble, taking everybody out. Matt and I were pushing ahead in a lot of them, and we did okay, but, oh, my God, it's so much easier with that glitch. We can just fly straight to the end, and it's like, cool. We figured out a day or two later, after we'd already done our flawless run to get the Sparrow, oh, other people are starting to figure this out too. Like, he just showed us where he had hopped on, and we're like, oh, this works. Let's all do this. Let's all go get a sparrow. So, yeah, I love that encounter. It's a much more accessible edition of the Sparrow race from Scourge of the Past.
Yeah.
The other Fallen raid.
Yeah. You took me the way with all the jumps. That was fun. I like the little jumps. Little, come over here, boost. Until I fell in the crack that one time. That was fun. And then Mitch fell off, and we had to start all over, and Nerd had to go get him. That was funny.
Yeah. It's a thing. I really, really, really like that encounter. It's not super hard, especially once you're at the proper level, but it is a lot of fun. That's an encounter like that just genuinely brings a smile to my face. Like, even if I wasn't going to raid for the week, I would still easily run through to the end just to go get my chest.
Yeah.
So, I like that a lot. Joe, any other thoughts on the Sparrow Pike race?
Not really. I would say that I remember being really frustrated the first time because I'm bad at that stuff. And I remember when you guys were all ahead, and I was just like, I can't do it. I can't figure it out. And now that it's like the day one thing isn't happening, it's not hard at all. I think I was just feeling that anxiety mostly.
Oh, yeah.
But I agree. I feel like if they take the cheese out, they've taken away so much already. they can't. It's something fun. It's harmless. Any damage that would have been done has been done already. So let's leave it in. But other than that, no thoughts on the Sparrow race. It's a good time. Everyone should do it. It's the equivalent of the lantern in Crota.
It's a lot of fun. It's just this really wacky experience.
I think it's a cool way to start the raid.
Absolutely. I think the frostbite mechanic really helps lean into that dynamic weather that they do too.
Yeah.
I really like that. Like, for the first time, I felt like it actually mattered. So I like that. The first encounter, though, breaching crypt security, I was actually a little angry once we figured out how easy this could be. Like, none of us thought to just throw on Xeno on day one. Otherwise, we probably would have shredded it. Instead, we're sitting there with auto rifles and other LMGs just shooting the hell out of it. Like, lucky if we were celebrating when we got it down in 3 tries. And just rezzing Joe every time he died, and then we realized, oh, everyone else is using Xenophage. We feel really dumb now.
If only I was upstairs.
If only you were upstairs. The encounter design for this, I mean, again, just something that is really creative, but fairly simple to figure out. Like, you kind of want to just, like, hit yourself in the head once you figure it out, because it's so simple, but it does require a lot of coordination. We jokingly made maps on napkins because that's all that was accessible to me in our day one raid. So we called them the mapkins. Labeled everything out, and then I'm realizing people are labeling like L1 and D3 and stuff. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. We're doing 1 through 10. That's so much easier. How is that not easier?
It was very easy. Once we had figured it out, it made a lot of sense. And like, now look at how efficient we are. We phase it within a minute. It's like so fast.
Yeah, and I really like that. How, like, everything that you're doing downstairs, though, is reflected just bigger upstairs. Like, the fuses are real tiny downstairs, but they're these gigantic things upstairs. And I'm like, how is this a fuse?
Yeah, they're like giant canisters. They're not fuses. There's no way they're fuses. They're like giant batteries, at the least.
It's a fuse.
Corey, I hate to interrupt you, but they just teased the next Mass Effect at the Game Awards. They showed a concept trailer for it.
Okay, well,
it was a very brief one.
They haven't even showed
concept trailer.
They haven't even showed gameplay for their Legendary trilogy. So pass. Okay,
hard pass until
2023.
Show me something real.
Yeah.
We're announcing that we're working on it.
Why is Christopher Nolan presenting Game of the Year?
I don't know.
Tenet is coming to HBO Max.
Christopher Nolan know what a video game is?
You have to buy it in theaters.
You have to buy it in Fortnite.
This is how it was meant to be played in the IMAX.
Yeah, that's hilarious to me. How like Mr. I don't like people watching things on tablets and phones also screened his movies in Fortnite for the summer.
Yeah.
So okay.
Yeah.
Anyways, back to the Deep Stone Crypt as the mayor. I like the first encounter. It's that if you can figure that encounter out as a group going in, 6 brand new raiders for the first time could pretty easily figure that system out, I feel. And if you can figure that out, you can figure out the entire raid, frankly. I think that's honestly the only one that, like, the only encounter you actually have to practice for. Like, you have to know where you're going. Like, the others, it changes every single time. This, it's constant.
The first encounter is probably the perfect example of efficiency in Destiny. If you can nail down your efficiency, you can nail the rest of this raid just as easy as that first encounter.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that first that first real encounter went by so fast. It didn't even like feel like a real encounter.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, that was I think maybe that's like I don't want to say I hate coming back to this because I know we want to kind of do all the encounters, but like maybe that's why I'm kind of like I think disappointed is the wrong word, but like I'm still trying to figure out how to feel about it is because like the pike race in the first like kind of real encounter went by so fast and it was like, oh, we're just like flying through this.
So I feel like we probably did you a little bit of disservice that, and I actually, reflecting back, this is probably what makes me like raids. When you do it blind and you don't, like, you're not told and you actually have to figure it out and you have to do all the stuff that we had already done like 3 times to really kind of nail down a good routine. That's what makes the raid fun.
Yeah,
it's the mystery of it, and you didn't really get a chance to have that or really to witness it because we were just telling you what to do and just blowing through it.
Well, I mean, I didn't even really have this feeling when we did Scourge this summer. Like I really liked that raid. I enjoyed like learning how to do the different things, doing the things, and the encounters like took a pretty decent length to do, and then we moved on, right?
True.
Like I just feel like these first 2 encounters, we were done with the first 2 encounters in what, like 20 minutes, maybe less than that.
Mm-hmm.
And
we spent more time failing at the jumping puzzle than we did on the first encounter.
Yeah, and like maybe that's because like I remember going into like King's Fall the first time or Leviathan the first time, and like it with the team I was raiding with regularly at the time was like, all right, let's figure this out. And when we got to the baths, we were like, how do we do this? And when we figured out like, okay, maybe this X strategy is like the best one where, you know, work in a triangle, teams of 3, whatever. It was just like, I don't know. Maybe I just want to run it like a couple more times to see how my real feelings are about it.
Yeah.
Like, cause I don't mind like blowing through a raid. I don't think that's my issue. I just feel like maybe, man, I don't know. I just feel like those first 2 encounters weren't like, quote, real encounters. And maybe it's because like I didn't really have like a job those first 2 encounters. I was really just clearing ads and shooting the fuses that, you know, Joe and Nerd were calling out. And and you know, maybe that's just like the design of the raid. Like maybe that's just how it goes sometimes, but like, you know what I mean? I don't know. Let's move on. I don't mean to keep sounding like I'm complaining because I really like the team aspect of the raid. I really like going in and feeling like, oh man, we're really getting ready to take down this huge thing. And like, I don't know.
Well, I mean, Corey, I'll pitch it to you this way. It felt like you weren't doing a whole lot because we had figured out how to streamline it to where we only had to have 2 to 3 people on each encounter running points.
Yeah.
And that's a result of running it a dozen times in 2 weeks. Like, that was absolutely not our experience the first 3 or 4 completions that we had. We were still trying to figure out what roles we were each comfortable in.
I understand that. Like I really do understand that, and like I know if I would have run the raid that first day like I was supposed to with you guys, it probably would have been a totally different experience, you know? And
probably.
Like I really didn't feel like we were like in the raid until that second encounter with you know, the room and then going up to space with the, you know what I mean? Like that was like the first point where I actually felt like, all right, we are actually in this raid now.
Yeah. I don't know. I really have nothing else to say about that first encounter though. I think the one I want to discuss the most is Atrax though.
Yeah.
My grandma had an 8-tracks.
Get out. God, I need your internet to go out right now or something.
Don't worry, it might. My computer's been
if I have to hear Status Calamitous one more time, I'm like actually going to scream. We heard it so many times on day one that it like seeped into my subconscious and I started hearing it in my sleep in the exact voice of the Crypt AI. It is such a frustrating encounter to figure out, and it took us a while to figure it out. We had it nailed on day one. I'd like to state this for the record. We had it nailed on day one. We just ran out of revives because if you aren't using Lament, or even like I think even Falling Guillotine would work really good. It would just probably take you another full phase, but you could probably easily do it with Falling Guillotine now that you're off contest mode. It was a nightmare though. We would just start running out, or like, oh, everybody on the bottom would run out, or oh, all space would run out of revives, and I mean, then you're screwed. You can't get up or down quickly enough and pass buffs, avoid the boss at the elevators and everything else. But going to space for the first time, I didn't know that's what was going to happen when I jumped into that pod. I thought it was an elevator.
It felt like ODST, that opening of ODST when you're dropping. Oh, I was like, oh man, this is awesome.
T-Rex had an awesome reaction on Twitch when he flew to space. He's just like shrieking. He's like, oh, I'm flying in space. I'm flying in space. I've gone to space. That's how I felt, and I was trying to keep it together for everybody. That was amazing. That was an amazing moment.
I think there's one thing that really held us back, and that's when to kill the servitors.
Yep. Once we nailed the servitors, we nailed the encounter.
That was the difference for us that made it easy. Waiting to do that at the same time, so we knew that's what triggered the event. Oh, okay. I don't know. That I feel like if we would have had that, we would have at least made it past that encounter.
Yep. I fully agree. I think, honestly, at that point, I think we make it to the boss.
I would probably agree with that.
I don't think we beat the boss, but I think we make it there.
Yeah.
But speaking of moving, I mean, so there's really not a whole lot to say about Atrax, I don't think. It's interesting design. I like that there's 4 copies of him on each level. Obviously, having a giant anime sword helps an awful lot. Mm-hmm. But again, as we've found out from our runs, absolutely not essential. I do think it would be really hard if you had 3 Xenophages shooting him at once, though. Just trying to get those synced up. At least with Lament or even Guillotine, you can like spam your attack buttons in sync. But the final stand mechanic, that's something I don't remember seeing in a non-boss encounter before. And that was really, really cool to see. You know, he has his health partitioned off down there, about 15% of it sitting off to the side, and everybody has to come to space. If you don't have everybody, if you don't nail that first projection, you maybe have enough time to get to that second one. I guarantee you're not making that third one, though.
Yeah.
We got very lucky when we had to hit 3 the other night. We had our first one because just me and one other person were there, and then only one of us was at one or maybe 2 of us were at the next one, and out of desperation, Nerd and I both shot off golden guns at the last one to make sure we could hit it, and thank God we did. But I think it's things like that where it just gets so frantic. As long as you're not on a day 1 raid, I think that those encounters are the funnest and the most hysterical to look back on. Because like there's just so much. Like I'm the scanner and I'm supposed to be calling out clear instructions, but usually it's just like screeching because I like I know that there's a lag between all of us. So like when I'm seeing it as like after it's already popped up on everybody else's screens. It's like, I'm usually, Nerd has called me on this. He's like, dude, you're already running at it when you call it. I'm like, yeah, because like I saw it on my screen, at least one of us is going to get there and damage.
Yeah.
Josh has a pretty high-pitched voice when things get frantic.
I do. I'm not proud of it.
It's pretty funny, though.
I will be booted from LFG groups for being a squeaker.
Yeah, it's fine.
Even though I'm 28.
Just make a mom joke and like I don't know, say a few curse words.
Mom goes to college.
Man. By the way, speaking of squeakers, I turned on Gears of War multiplayer the other day to try out the 120 hertz mode. Man, a bunch of like elementary school kids play that game. I gotta tell you, man, it's bad. So, anyways, let's move on.
We're gonna move on for Corey's shame. We're gonna keep going. The space jump. This is my favorite jumping puzzle in Destiny. Whisper, you have been unseated. Please retire in the Destiny content vault. Your time has come, like the wall of dicks before you.
Oh God. Oryx
your time.
Yeah,
the Oryx dildo wall before you. Go join the land of your forefathers, because
four skins.
This is not a challenging jumping puzzle.
There's like how Josh just
particular jump that I am adamant if I am absolutely ignoring. I've seen so many dildos in Cyberpunk over the last 2 days. Like I can't do it anymore.
So the very first thing in Cyberpunk I did was pick up a studded dildo. That was the first item I picked up.
Yeah, I found that, and then I found a giant one in the bathroom, and it was really weird.
Why are there so many? What is their weird obsession with strange dildos?
I think it's their way of... I promise that I will not talk about anything other than Destiny after this. But I think it's their way of, like, shocking you into normalizing things that really aren't a big deal. And dildos are one of them. Dildos aren't a big deal. Neither are penises or vaginas or no gender. Just
or
shorts.
Both.
So I think it's their way of just being like, hey, these things are here, whatever. And then, like, they won't be a bit... Like South Park. Remember how shocking South Park was the first few seasons? And then it's just like, oh, that's a thing. Mm-hmm. It's just South Park. I think it's their thing. Yeah. Anyway. Let's move on. The space jump. Sorry. It is the most beautiful jumping puzzle in Destiny ever.
It's the best skybox they've ever done.
Ever.
Just bar none. It's not a particularly challenging jumping puzzle after you've done it once or twice. There is one particular jump that is all that is holding me up from being able to do this raid flawless, and it's really bothering me.
Guess we have to run the raid a few more times, Josh. We need you to get that down.
I need that flawless shader. I need it. So I need 5 other people to get it together too.
I feel like I could do it.
The Deep Stone Lullaby music that plays, though. Mm-hmm. That is genuinely one of the most beautiful pieces of music in a video game I've heard maybe ever. I joke that I feel like I'm in like a Planet Earth documentary series when I listen to that, because I'm expecting like David Attenborough to come in and like narrate it for me, but it's beautiful. I could sit out there listening to that all day. Like, I could just go load into that jumping puzzle and pop a squat. Mm-hmm. And I'd be perfectly happy. Man, it's so good. It's just so... I have no comments, no critique other than it's so fucking good. It's amazing.
Yeah, I think that if you don't regularly raid or haven't done a raid, I feel like you should do this raid at least until you get to that point, just to like... It's a very easy jumping puzzle. It's not hard at all. Like, you don't really have to search for where to go next. It's very linear, but it's the perfect combination. It leans on a lot of things that Bungie does really well, which is sound design. The music is really good, and the physics, the way that the physics change, are perfectly timed with both. It is Remember in Halo when you went outside into space for the first time, and like you get the weird audio and everything like that. It is very similar. It's just a neat experience. Anybody that plays Destiny is very in tune with the physics. Like, you know how fast you fall, you know what your gun feels like, and it just tweaks it a little bit. It's very good. Highly, highly, highly recommend anyone getting to that part just to experience how great that is.
Yeah, I just like jumping through there, and like I know we were trying to get like the little data pads or whatever, and just jumping through, man, it was just like, this is amazing. Like I found myself stopping a few times. Like, I was supposed to be following the group to get these data pads, and I found myself stopping just to like look around, and then I would lose the group, and I'm like, oh no, where'd they go? I gotta pretend like I am still following them. But I stopped myself like a few times just to look around. I was like, man, this is amazing. I took quite a few screenshots, and
yeah, that's an underrated thing about the wider field of view, is just how many gorgeous screenshots you can get.
Mm-hmm.
They look so much better.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I can't wait for the next live event with 105 field of view.
Yeah, it was,
especially with how exaggerated it is in social spaces.
Yeah.
It's just, God. So yeah, that's been our talk on the Deepstone Lullaby on the jumping puzzle. Is just, oh God, it's beautiful. If you haven't experienced it yet, you need to do the raid just for that. Quit out after that, but do it just for that.
Yeah.
You should push on. See, test the waters, but definitely get to that point.
Third encounter. I don't have much of anything to say on this. It's basically just, it's like any other third encounter in a raid. It's teaching you mechanics you're going to use in the boss. So it's a warm-up. That's really all it is. That's when it's explicitly confirmed, in case you didn't pick up from his cloak, that this is Taniks. We killed him multiple times in Destiny 1. We fought his nightmare in this. He just keeps coming back and back and back, because that's part of who he is as a Fallen. His
Taniks is the worst. I hate Taniks so much.
100%. If I'm the Guardians, I'm literally sitting there and burning the body and not leaving until the body is completely burned up. Like, we're gonna go Darth Vader on his ass. We're just gonna burn him and let Yubnub play in the background.
Do we have the high ground?
He had the high ground, and he still got his ass whooped. So
it's true.
I really like how this encounter works, though. We of course have operator and scanner back, but you are carrying around little mini nukes. The only catch is it's not like other carryables, other orbs, where you can drop them if your buff gets to be too much. Somebody has to actually come take it from you. So again, requires coordination or basically reading your partner's mind. We've all done it now enough as a group that, usually we know when somebody's sitting about 6 or 7 seconds, and we take it from them. But it's a small space. It gets a little frantic. Taniks likes to hang out right next to the boxes you're dunking, and you don't actually damage him in this fight.
Yeah.
Which is, it's kind of bizarre. It's not even like, oh, when you fight Deception for Galron, you fight, Shadow Centurions or whatever they are in the Shadow Realm for the Leviathan. Like, no, you're actually not doing anything to this guy.
I kept waiting for like a call out to be like, everybody meet in the middle so we can do damage. And then like I was waiting for that call out, and the only call out I heard was, everybody run. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm just guess we're running down this long hallway now.
So once you've done the encounter 6 times, the ground opens up in the middle, and you drop down into a corridor, and the AI is basically telling you that you're a clever little rat. You're going to escape the station's destruction, this and that. But once the space station crashes, because the whole synopsis is Taniks has taken over this space station, and the Crypt AI has been programmed to automatically scuttle the station if it was ever breached, and to crash into the Deepstone Crypt. He basically says the door to the Crypt is going to be open to everybody once you get down there, so you have to kill this guy. Like, you have to stop him. You are clearly the only one who can do it. And I really, really, really love that. Yeah, it's crazy. I like when there's a story tied to the raid. So
yeah, it was
yes.
Running down that hallway, I got major Xenomorph vibes.
that was definitely one of the things about the raid that I really liked. That like the story actually like it felt like the Taken King did, where like it felt like a continuation of what was happening and what we did during Beyond Light's campaign and like the extra stuff. Like it just felt like a continuation instead of like, oh well, we fought the Red War and now we're gonna go fight this fake robot Cabal guy and go down into his weird robot hangar closet at the end and not really know why,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Leviathan had really no connection, and any of the raids or raid layers that took place on Leviathan had no strong connection. I mean, if you start to get into the lore and all that stuff, you can read why these things are here and why they exist and stuff like that. But to experience a raid that feels so connected to the content that you were grinding for the first 10 days or longer if you didn't do it early on, like that's the satisfying part. It's like, oh, this is everything that we were just doing is now part of this raid. Like there's the same art style, it's the same content, it's the same characters and stuff like that. That's what I really enjoy. It lets you, it's an easier way to get into character and to stay in like that world to me.
Yeah, it was weird because like you go from like the EDZ and like some like Nessus and stuff, and then you go to this like giant gold pyramid ship that like purple and gold and like all these gaudy colors. Like you're like this is like it totally takes you out of it almost. Not that like wasn't a fun raid, but like it was like
Correct.
This is just like it just feels like this is something that they designed and they didn't know what to do with the story about this, so they just shoved it in here because it was ready to go type thing. You know what I mean?
So, yeah, we're gonna circle to the story in just a second because I do want to tackle the story in a minute. As much as I like it, I want to tackle that after we talk about the final encounter, where everything comes together and actually quite cleanly for putting everything together for a raid. It's not teaching you anything new. It's just everything you did in the third encounter on a bigger scale, essentially. I really, really, now that we've figured out the 4-ball strat, I really love this boss fight. It's wacky, it's crazy. You have to be precise with how you enter his little damage bubble. You have to be timing is everything on this.
Also, don't run into the giant flying walls of trash and get yeeted off the level.
Don't be a Corey. Don't be a Corey. That is just the perfect example of something bonkers that I expect from Destiny. Somehow he put himself into a shank before the space station crashed, and we're not quite sure how that happened. But hey, we're space wizards running around with futuristic AK-47s. I think we can forgive this. It'll be okay.
Yeah, you gotta suspend your disbelief.
Yeah. It's just funny that he's underneath a trash pile in the middle of the arena.
Yeah.
So my impression was that that's when he was assembling himself in that trash pile.
Got you. Okay, that would make more sense.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
Okay.
To me, I was just like, you know what? He flies now. He's in a spaceship. This is like a, Dr. Robotnik Sonic situation, sort of. But not
yeah,
really.
that's... I've got major Eggman vibes from it. But yeah, no, I think it's a really fun boss fight. I mean, it takes a lot of timing. It takes some practice runs, but it's really, really satisfying when it all comes together. It's not just something you can run up and like wail on with a sword or with spiked grenade launchers or anything right now. Like there's a very specific method to nuking him, and it comes down to somebody better have toughed out Garden of Salvation and the Divinity puzzles and gotten it. Without Divinity, you're not quick phasing this boss. You're going to take all 3 damage phases easily.
Isn't it also funny that in almost every encounter, doing the seemingly more difficult task makes the encounter easier? Like doing all 4 of the nuclear cores in that, which is, I would say, is more difficult than slowly chipping away at him, makes it so much easier.
Oh, yeah. yeah, I mean, I didn't do it the old way, but this was like, oh, well, this seems like way easier to do than whatever you guys were doing before. And I don't even know what you guys were doing. I'm like, why wouldn't you just do this?
We would do 2 of them, and then you have to do the scanner to figure out which 2 it is, and then you have to do that whole cycle again. So basically, we would have twice as many of that little tiny bit before we get to a damage phase. And then before we started really getting our light level, we had to do multiple damage phases.
Right.
So like we would be doing that same thing like 6 times versus 1 now.
Yeah.
just insane. So
and that's not like a bug or anything, right? That's not like that's just like
like the first encounter when we did the 2 monitor thing, or the 2 they're not monitors, what are those little P stations? Anyway, when we did the 2 version of that, like that's technically the more difficult strategy, but it is the easier way to go about that encounter.
Yeah.
For the Triumph. So I don't know, anybody out there that hasn't done it yet, try the Triumphs, try the harder strat. It makes it easier overall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed the final boss fight. Like I don't know, it felt like a boss fight. You know what I mean? Like sometimes, like, I don't know, some of these raids you just kind of like go in and you're just like, whatever, this doesn't really feel great. But it just felt like, I felt like all of us were kind of like, okay, we know what we're doing. We're going in, we're doing it. And then besides me getting thrown off the level by a piece of trash, like, it felt good. And like when we got in his little bubble, we were all like xenophaging him and damaging him and stuff. It like felt really good. Like it just felt good.
Yeah. So we're gonna touch on story real fast before we go to how we rank this. I do agree with what Corey was saying a few minutes ago, that this feels like it was kind of cobbled together. Like the first half of it feels like it's completely different from the back half, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. Like it starts out being one thing, like, oh, we're like, are we trying to breach the crypt? Like, has somebody broke it in? Like, you're not really given any descriptors. We've just found the location of it. And Atrax, if you remember, Atrax is one of Aramis's lieutenants from the story. And so we finally kill Atrax. Atrax has infused exotech that she found here in the Deepstone Crypt into herself, this and that. You see Taniks escape out of the pod, this and that. Taniks is the body that they are referring to in the Glassway strike in the campaign. When Aramis tells Atrax to go prepare the body, this is what she was sent to do. She was actually sent to the crypt. Now, I do not understand for the life of me why the giant Vex Gate is not in the Deepstone Crypt. Why we literally saw like one little laboratory of the crypt and that was it, behind a darkness statue. I do not think that we're done with the Deepstone Crypt.
I feel like this is it's almost going to be like a Leviathan situation where they're going to add like maybe dungeons to it, or maybe like their versions of raid layers to it at some point.
I absolutely think that a dungeon is coming. Probably next spring or next summer is when it'll come. Unless they pull a fast one on us and drop one next season, which I do not anticipate.
Well, it seems like a good, like, because when's Vault coming back? Right?
Vault is just, they just said spring 2021. That's it. So like,
this seems like
a next season after.
Adding like a raid layer type thing to the Deepstone Crypt seems like a good stopgap between this raid and the next raid.
We're gonna find a Vex Gate, and it's gonna take us to the Vault.
Well, so, and that was the prediction that I was making before Beyond Light came out. And that's what we see, the giant Vex Gate in the Glassway. I was like, oh my god, like, are we looking at the gateway to the crypt right now? Like, are we going to come back here and kick off the raid here and this and that? And no, we didn't.
No, like when we first went in, like we went in, I was like, this doesn't feel like entering a raid. You know what I mean? Like, it just didn't feel like we were. I felt like we were trying to search for, like, that opening encounter. I felt like we were going to search for the gateway, and like we would enter through the gateway, and that's how we entered the Deepstone Crypt. And that was like, oh, you've unlocked the secret of entering the crypt, and then here are the secrets of the crypt or whatever. And it just kind of like, oh, we just kind of like walked up and walked in.
So I'm gonna present something to you. We know that the Vaulted Glass is coming back in 2021. but we don't know if Venus is coming back. Now, some computers on the moon in the lost sectors have been updated to show a logo for Venus and the Ishtar Collective on it.
Mm-hmm.
Do we think that we're getting Venus back? I know the prevailing theory is that we're going to enter it through Nessus. The Vault of Glass, we know, has multiple entry points across the universe. What if we use one of the Vex gates on Europa to go there?
I mean,
what if we use Clovis' one inside the Deepstone Crypt?
I was kind of thinking that a little bit because, like, maybe, like, the Vault of Glass is returning, but maybe that opening encounter, remember on Venus when you have to stand on the little pods and, like, you know what I mean? Maybe that opening section of the Vault of Glass is different, right? And, like, getting into the vault.
I think it has to be.
Yeah. Because I don't think they're going to bring Venus back. I feel like...
Not yet.
I feel like there's enough area and enough, like, planets left to, like, enter in from somewhere else. And I think if you're going to use the Deepstone Crypt again, and, like, maybe you add a raid layer beforehand, and, like, if you really want to explore the Deepstone Crypt, you get deeper into the crypt and you see a Vex gate and you enter in through there. And maybe it's like a similar type thing where, like, okay, you got to stand on these things to open the vault, but, like, we enter through Europa this time, like you're saying.
I wouldn't be surprised if we had a different path altogether to get, like, remember how when you open the vault and you have to go down, like, that little, it's like a mini jumping puzzle with the chest and stuff like that. It'd be cool if we came in from a different angle and, like, because you couldn't jump up there, they could still have that wall exist, but maybe we drop down. And also, if you remember in that area where we fight, what's that boss that you could push off the ledge?
Atheon.
Atheon?
No, that wasn't Atheon. It was the...
Atheon.
Was it him?
Yep. The last boss, you would stun him in place and you'd push him off. Yeah.
But not the last boss, the very first one that you, where you shoot the oracles.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, I know you can push that off, but Atheon is the one that was the main push.
Well, I mean, so I was referring to that very first boss encounter, or the mini boss.
I got you, man.
There's so many different areas where you could, like, crawl into the wall and stuff in there that I feel like it would be cool if you just came in that area from a different angle. It would like change your perspective. And then you could see, like, where you used to come in.
And maybe maybe if you figure out how to get up to where you used to come in, you could there's like a secret chest up there now.
The seventh one
with Fatebringer in it, or Icebreaker.
I'd like to see Icebreaker. That's what a poor fate of a gun.
So I think we're all in agreement. I think then that there's going to be more added to this because it feels like they left it very open.
Yeah,
like, especially with what the Crypt AI tells you. Like the vault is now open to everyone.
I feel like it's called the Deepstone Crypt, but we only scratch the surface of, like, how deep we can go into the crypt, right? Like
I mean, it's the same thing with the Leviathan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
it took us how many trips to get there, and we still only saw like 0.00003% of it, maybe.
Yeah. So it's just like, you know.
All right, guys. Last question, so we can wrap it up. With all of these factors taken into account, Corey, I know you've only cleared it once. I think I'm directing this kind of more towards Joe. Where, in light of your rankings you did about 2 months ago, where would you rank the Deepstone Crypt in the Destiny franchise for raids? In terms of your favorite raid.
I would probably put it in my, and I can't give you an exact number because every time, like, it's thinking about my favorite raids, every time I think about it, it's probably like, it gets a little blurry.
Yep.
But I would say it's probably my top 5.
Okay.
I love about this. Obviously, sound design, very good in this raid. Great jumping puzzle section. I would say, I don't want to say great jumping puzzle, but it was a fun jumping puzzle. It wasn't so much challenging. It was just a nice little breather. It was like a respite.
About the experience.
Correct. It was definitely an experience. I love the aesthetic. I play Destiny because less of the medieval aspect of it. I play Destiny more for the space and the science fiction aspect of it.
Yep.
So this heavily leans into the aesthetic that I like about Destiny. I like that it was accessible. I like and this is a personal thing, but I like that we did a day one attempt. I like the fact that we did a blind run and figured, I would say, probably like 90% of the raid out on our own. When we came back after light level, obviously we probably all had a little bit more information. I like the fact that we can Sherpa people through it now, which is something that I've always wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And we also, this was like the first time that we ever really, not that we ever played together, but like the group now that we have pretty much farming this every week was like, it was our first time playing together, and none of us, I don't think, got mad at one another, which is also a win.
No, not at all. We were at it for 12 hours, and none of us got heated. We just got fucking tired.
So I would say it's in my top 5 raids. It's definitely not nearly as challenging as some of the other raids. It doesn't quite hit some of the nostalgia factor. Overall, though, I would say it is a very fun experience. And I would definitely I will be playing. I love the fact that we've been playing this every week.
Yeah,
I haven't gotten tired of it yet.
I definitely agree. Corey, do you have any ranking comments?
I would definitely say I would really love to run this more than a few more times, but at least a few more times, right? Like just to get more of a feel for it. But like just based on this encounter, like really feeling like being part of a friendly raid group. To be honest, like my last one, like as much as we raided, like it wasn't really like a friendly raid group, you know, like it was kind of like kind of sweaty, I would say. But like I agree with Joe. Like I would still probably put this in my top 5 raids based on like how much fun I had with the people I was playing with, the aesthetic, especially the final boss encounter was awesome. The second encounter was awesome. The music and the really cool aesthetic during the jumping puzzle was cool. I definitely don't think it's I definitely don't think it's better than King's Fall. I don't think it's better than Vault. I don't really think it's better than Wrath of the Machine, in my opinion. But I would still put it in that conversation.
Okay.
It's definitely in my top 5. I would probably put it at like number 4, honestly, with Scourge right behind it. I just feel like it might be higher once I start running it a little bit more, you know? Like I could see it jumping Wrath of the Machine, honestly. And maybe I know that those first 3 on my list are really nostalgia heavy factors, right? Like nothing I don't think will ever beat King's Fall for me. I think that is still like the pinnacle of raids for them. But this was really fun playing with you guys, like playing through it finally with you guys and getting the chance to do that, and like hopefully get to do it next week or the week after or whatever if I can pull, Josh away from his Cyberpunk for 90 minutes.
I mean, maybe. And
like especially like now that I like know what I'm doing, aside from that third encounter, and not having to go for all the the Sparrow or the Ghost or anything, like clearing it in probably 75 minutes is like really a positive for me too, because like I want to raid, but I also want to go to bed at a decent time. So
right.
But yeah, it was definitely fun. I feel like the opening probably could have been stronger. I think that is like the biggest kind of negative for me is like I wish the opening was stronger. Because after we've like talked through it, and I was thinking about that second encounter, how cool it was, and like using the elevator and getting that Halo ODST vibe from it, and the jumping puzzle, and then that final encounter was really, really cool. Like my impressions have gone up actually talking about it more with you guys, but I think it could have opened stronger, but I really, really enjoyed it. So what about you, Josh?
So, okay. I have it ranked. I have mine definitively ranked. I have it ranked at number 3. And And I've gone back and forth in my head over this. If I felt like I was jumping out a little bit too far, because if I remember correctly, when we did our rankings, I either had Garden or Vault at number 3, and the other at number 4. I think this easily surpasses Garden. Like it's not even a question in my opinion. Mm-hmm. This is the most accessible raid they've ever made across both games. This is definitely the easiest to teach new people. This is the easiest to run blind with friends who are maybe not used to raiding or not comfortable with end game content. I think a lot of this honestly is easier than doing Nightfalls, frankly, or than doing some of the dungeons. Like there are parts of this that are definitely easier than the Prophecy dungeon. I'll just put it that way. And I think the loot is rewarding. I think the structure is amazing. As Joe mentioned, of course, the incredible sound design, the jumping puzzle. This is all like some of the best work Bungie's ever done. This is some of the best raid work they've ever done. And if this is what I can if I can expect things like this the rest of the year, I'm here for it. I can't wait to see what else they're going to do, what this team's going to do. Yeah, just echoing a lot of y'all's thoughts. It's definitely not better than King's Fall for me. It's not better than Last Wish. I have those neck and neck. It's a little bit below Last Wish for me. There are some things I do think the difficulty factor, now that I've cleared it a dozen times, the difficulty factor could be a little bit more. Not much more, but just like maybe a little bit more. I'm not even talking like in terms of captains or, I mean, because those those big yellow captains are pretty rough in the final encounter. The random overload champions kind of throw me for a loop too. I get why they're there, but that's really just kind of obnoxious, frankly. Mm-hmm. And I get it, like they're there to be a pest more than anything. But I do agree with what Corey was saying. Like you can do that second encounter with Falling Guillotine, but without Lament, you're in for 2, if not a little bit over 2 rounds. Even with Lament, you sometimes are if people can't get there. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I like that it's a raid that everybody has to take on a role. It forces you to. Mm-hmm. You have to know. Everybody has to know how to do the encounters, at least their thing for their buddy. Because if not, you're screwed. Now, everybody else can back you up because you're never walled off, which is something I always hated. I hate about things like Garden. I hated about Crown of Sorrow. You get sectioned off into teams of 2, and that's it. Like, if your partner dies, like, it's a wipe. It's a complete wipe unless you happen to be in the common area when you die, and you're usually not. Mm-hmm. So I like that. I'm excited to keep running this. I'm not tired of it yet, even though I have cleared this officially more than any other raid in the franchise in such a short amount of time. I am slowing up on my clears now that Cyberpunk is out, and now I got other things to do in Destiny, like the Hawkmoon quest, got Iron Bananas, got the Dawning coming up. Want to tackle some of the seasonal content, but
I forgot this has been what's going on.
This has been just such a fun time doing this raid, learning all the ins and outs. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I got to finish the collections, and then I think I'm 5 triumphs away from the title, which is way closer than I've ever gotten to a raid title, because I think it's so accessible to do these challenges.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, great raid, fantastic raid, Bungie. I know you listen to this, Luke Smith. I know you do. Yeah. You
we actually just talked earlier. Me and Luke are.
Yeah, he hit me up on the cell phone.
Yeah,
so.
the cell phone. I want to say one thing about like this whole experience with Beyond Light has like really reinvigorated my love for Destiny. I think, and I don't know if it's like doing the show or just having people to talk about it and play with again or whatever, but like. I know Beyond Light isn't like the best expansion they've ever made, but somehow it's like really brought my love for Destiny back in a way that I didn't think I was going to get again at some point, outside of like, oh, I really like reading the lore, but like I'm playing other games right now, so I'll just read the lore later or whatever. You know what I mean? It's I don't know. I'm just really loving playing Destiny again. So
Destiny is better with friends. I think that has a large part because it's what keeps you going. There's what percentage of Destiny? I would say probably over 60% is stuff that you have to have friends to play with or other people. Mm-hmm. It helps if they're friends or helps that they're people that you get along with. And it's nice that we're coming to the perfect moment where with cross-play, and it's available on so many different platforms, and it's on Game Pass, so you don't even have to buy it, and they have light leveling, and there's ways to like really ease you into it. There's so many ways to connect with those friends and to play them in so many different ways that we're coming to this point where it's fun and it's easier to play Destiny. Still challenging, but it's easy to keep playing it, which is it's a good spot for it to be in.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well,
Corey, you want to take us out?
Yeah. I want to thank everybody for watching and or listening. This has been Tower Casuals. You can catch us live right here on Boss Rush Games Live on Twitch every Thursday night. You can catch us on Fridays on podcast services. Check out our other family of shows on BossRushGames.com, including the show that we're all on, Arsenal X, the Xbox podcast. If you're listening to us on podcast services, please rate and review. We'd really appreciate it. It really helps us out. Joe, where can we find you?
You're going to be way better off if you check those show notes. It's Colonel Panic. It's spelled goofy. I'm on Twitter. Check me out there for any updates. Best place to find me.
Josh, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter and on Twitch at Josh_Finn with 2 N's. Playing through Cyberpunk right now and having absolute meltdowns over this ridiculous Disney conference call. It's a good time. Stop on by.
Yeah. Also, I think we might talk a little bit of Disney, Josh, in the next day or two. So,
yeah, I'm here for it. I have nothing going on except Cyberpunk. That is what my life is: eat, sleep, Cyberpunk.
What if I told you you could be playing Cyberpunk while we talked about Disney?
No, I have enough attention span for one of those things at a time. I will respectfully not be on my Xbox while we're talking.
You can find me at IamCoreyHD on Twitter and Instagram. You can also find me here on a plethora of things on BossRushGames.com. I want to thank everybody so much for watching and or listening. Until next time, we love you. Goodbye.
Bye, buddy. Hope you find your dad.